Well, hello and welcome to the Profit Express. I am Tim Healy, and I'm inviting you to join me each and every week so together we can win the battle for business. Hey, and as always, thanks for joining me. Now, today's show is going to have a bit of a very unique twist. We're going to find out what it takes to win the battle for healthier longevity, for healthier and longer lifespans. That's right. And today's guest may actually be one of the most ambitious guests I've ever had. He actually believes that living to 200 years of age is no longer science fiction. And his mission, and this is what makes him so incredibly ambitious, is his mission is to create and offer healthier longevity for 1 billion people. That's right, 1 billion people. Now you think 200 years old, how is that possible? Well, if you think about it, in 1900, or I should say since 1900, the global life expectancy has more than doubled. So now we're currently at around 73 years of age. So it's actually not that far-fetched to think we could certainly get to 150. Now today's guest and his incredibly ambitious mission, he is a venture capitalist. He is also the founder of the Longevity Vision Fund and the author of a brand new book. Let me get a nice screenshot here. The Science and Technology of Growing Young. He is Sergey Young. And his new book is not only an amazing look into the near horizon and the far horizon of longevity for planet Earth, but quite frankly, folks, it is a mind-blowing read. Now, you know, I've had the pleasure of having a lot of amazing authors on the show, a lot of big best-selling authors on the show. But I want to start off with the very first paragraph in Sergey's book. Again, the book is The Science and Technology of Growing Young. And I rarely read captions from books, but this one I think you'll appreciate as I read this to kind of set the stage for today's interview and why I was so interested to have Sergey on the show today. So here's page 1, paragraph 1. Picture yourself on the occasion of your 200th birthday. You wake up in your hermetically sealed, temperature and oxygen optimized bedroom. You've slept the precise amount of time your body requires. While you slept, nano-robots in your bloodstream identified injuries, made repairs, and delivered nutrients, vitamins, and medicines via microchips embedded throughout your body. A series of internal and external diagnostic devices ran a complete scan, compared the data to that of the entire global population, and made micro-adjustments to your daily molecular feed accordingly. All of your damaged tissues and cells were repaired so that you wake up exactly as healthy as you were 150 years ago. So when I say mind-blowing kind of book, I think you can appreciate I'm really not kidding here. And that's why I want to start off sharing that first paragraph. So there are so many implications with Sergey's book. He's a venture capitalist. He comes at it from the point of view of an investor, and there's so many aspects that we will talk about from technology and ethics and where that leads people like you and me. And it's no longer science fiction, but it's a lot closer than we think. So it's a real pleasure to welcome aboard the Profit Express, Sergey Young. Sergey, how are you today?
Hi, Tim. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Well, listen, we're very excited to have you on. As I said, it's a twist for the show today. You know, you're a venture capitalist. You're very much a businessman. I think you have a chemical engineering background. So you appreciate science, you appreciate business. And when I read through the book, and hopefully when the listeners and the viewers heard that first paragraph, Sergey, it's going to compel them to go out and get the book because, in my opinion, they absolutely should because it's a fascinating read. And it's a scary read. I got to be honest, Sergey, and you know this, and we're going to get into it. It's uplifting, it's compelling, and it's scary, which makes it a great read. Let me start with this question. How did you come up with the vision of developing greater longevity, healthier longevity, I should say, for 1 billion people? Let's start there.
Okay. Well, first of all, our longevity journey and our interest to longevity always start with a personal crisis. or a personal shock. So for me, it was high cholesterol level, which is not really dramatic. 40% of people in US suffer from that. But I took this as a challenge, as an opportunity to redefine my health strategy, my understanding of the human biology. And as I'm insecure overachiever, I couldn't really accept like the easy tasks. So I thought I'll just need to change as many lives as possible by bringing affordable and accessible version of healthcare to the world. And like US is the best place to do that because we have the most inefficient and the most expensive healthcare system in the world, spending 18% of GDP on healthcare, much more than any other developed country in the world.
And it's funny, in seeing some of your other interviews and reading the book, so the U.S. spends 18% GDP, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you're certainly the expert here, isn't in the last year or two, is the U.S. lifespan actually decreasing? Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's a problem. Pre-COVID,
Yeah, not including the effects of COVID,
5,
right?
Yeah, pre-COVID. So it was pre-2020. 3 out of 5 years, we had our life expectancy, lifespan decreasing. I mean, through the marginal number, it's 0.2 years per year.
Right.
But like we are the only developed country in the world who actually have this kind of trend.
Yeah, and especially with the dollars that we're spending, you certainly would think it wouldn't be going down.
Yeah.
It should be inching up each year. So that's the mission. So it was, your encounter with some high cholesterol got you thinking, and put you on the path to wanting to help 1 billion people. Now, in the book, you talk about, and actually have a chapter on it, and I was surprised myself. You would think that the definition of aging would be somewhat universal, but it really kind of wasn't. So in your research and speaking to all the experts you've spoken to, how did you define aging?
Yeah, well, this is great. That's such a great question. So we end up with writing 40 pages on different theories of aging, and then
Right.
we scrap this part of the book because there's so many different theories of why we age, and there's no unified theory of aging. In fact, it's just a lot of scientists working on that. So we still don't know why we age, but we do have hallmarks of aging, so we do understand what particular routes aging takes in our body. So my definition of aging is, well, think about your evolutionary program. So Mother Nature created us. And again, I'm talking in evolutionary biological terms. We are social animals. There's bigger agenda here, but let me simplify. So your objective in this world is to be born, grow to your age when you can reproduce yourself, have kids, then take care of them, and then die, because Mother Nature don't want you to compete for these important resources. Mother Nature doesn't really have this abundance of resources mindset. So that's why in somewhere in the age of 40 or 45, it's genetically predisposed process. Mm-hmm. Aging starts inside your body, and it goes on so many fronts, like genetic front or epigenetic front. This is how your genes express themselves inside your body. Or right. This is on the level how you recycle food or any other important resources from the outside environment. And so this aging is happening in so many levels. And it's a fundamental process. We've been evolutionary designed to age and die after we finish our reproductive and like kids raising agenda. Mm-hmm. And this is what we're trying to fight with. We all know that from 40 or 45 years, then our probability to die from 4 killer diseases, which is heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and neurodegenerative diseases, increase exponentially. And all 4 diseases that I just mentioned are responsible for 90% of deaths after the age of 50.
Wow. So it's funny because a lot of what we talk about in the book, a lot of what you talk about in the book, I should say, is going against Mother Nature, which is interesting because Mother Nature didn't have the design for people to live to 150. We're going to get into that in a little bit later. But your book is kind of broken up, if I could simplify it for the listeners, into the near horizon as far as longevity, the science and the technology, and then the far horizon. The far horizon is where it kind of gets a little scary for me. So why don't we start off with, if you can give us like a brief definition, a visual of how you would define the near horizon first, Sergey.
Okay, so it's longevity became such a confusing space. So I just wanted to bring a little bit of order, a little bit of framework. How do we think and work on longevity? And as you pointed out correctly, there are two types of innovation and two horizons of innovation which are waiting for us in the future. So one called near horizon of longevity, and these are technologies and scientific discoveries that will be available for all of us in the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Okay.
So, and while before that, our whole improvement in terms of our average lifespan, and you're right, we almost doubled it in the last century, was avoiding early death. But technologies from near horizon of longevity will help us to break this barrier like of maximum lifespan and fundamentally increase our lifespan. And when people ask me like, well, Sergey, what are the technologies? What are the most exciting pieces of near horizon of longevity innovation, which going to be available to us in the next 5, 10, 15 years? So my answer is three things. One is gene editing and gene therapy. Mm-hmm. First time in human history, we will be able to amend our DNA. And we have this technology for the last 20, 25 years. And we already know all 3,000 genes in our DNA, in our genetic code, which are responsible for the aging process. So if we can influence, if we can amend these genes or change the expression of these genes, we will create fundamentally different humans. And this is where the scary part starts for all of us. We'll discuss that in a second, because I'm waiting for this in combination with excitement and fear. I'm like idealistic, super optimistic guy, but I'm still fearful of the future ethical choices that we have. So let's come back to this in a minute. So one is gene editing and gene therapy. Just to make it closer to our audience, right now, we all participating in the global positive, I do think it's positive, experiment in gene therapy. Because mRNA vaccines like Moderna, AstraZeneca, some other COVID vaccines, are the outcome of gene therapy. So that's one. Second piece is what I call longevity in the pill. And I'm talking about completely different new class of drugs. Because currently you have drug for every disease. Well, not for every, but like we're trying to treat every one disease with one drug. But like what will happen in the next 5, 10, 15 years? We're going to develop, we're going to improve, and we're going to do a lot of trials of different drugs, which actually has impact on your aging process, on your fundamental thing, which are responsible for so many different diseases. So it's going to be called longevity in the pill. It's going to be age reversal type of drugs. And we already have quite a few candidates for that. One generic drug, one immunosuppressant drug. I just don't want to use the name of these drugs. They are on the book, but I don't want people to run to their doctors and ask for that. And or it's going to be drug developed by artificial intelligence. Today, in big pharma or in startups, if we use artificial intelligence, we can compress this 12 years, $2.6 billion investment drug development cycle into something much more efficient and meaningful. So watch out. Next 5, 10, 15 years, we're going to have completely different class of drugs, which are going to attack aging in its core and will make us fundamentally healthy rather than fighting cancer or heart diseases or diabetes alone. So that's second thing. And by the way, all of this near horizon of longevity is exactly the focus of my longevity vision fund. This is where we invest. This is where we support scientists and entrepreneurs. And the third one, and this is the most interesting one for me, is our ability to regenerate and replace organs. And if you think it's science fiction, we just invested in a company 2 years ago, in a company called like Genesis. And what they do, they take donor liver, they split it in 50 to 75 pieces, put it in our lymph node, and a new liver grows inside our body, inside our lymph nodes in the course of 3 to 6 months, and actually support the function of your old liver, which is not obviously working because you do need this. So
Sure,
think
sure.
about old car metaphor. We will like we extending resource of the old cars today by replacing spare parts or even engine. Well, that's exactly what will happen with human bodies and human mind. I'm an engineer, so we're switching from biological view of aging problem or on human body and mind to and complementing this with engineering view um, on human body and human mind. So organ regeneration technologies are currently in development, and it can be 3D bioprinted organs or organs that we regrow in animals. In fact, pigs are most closely
Yeah, yeah.
to us, most close to us in
DNA.
terms of DNA setup. It's 99% um,
So then
similar.
in
Or
the near horizon, Sergey. So this is what's again, you said the near horizon on a timeline is 5, 10, 15 years. Okay. So if you're an adult, you know how quickly that time goes. So I just want to make sure I got this right. So genetic engineering is here. Artificial intelligence is here. And then repairing organs are here. And those are three of the major pillars of the near horizon. Did I get that right?
yes, this is the
And
most
those are all
exciting
major. Yeah.
and transformational for me. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So now, let's talk about technology, because again, you're the founder of the Longevity Vision Fund. And you're focused in and your partners in the investments in the near horizon. One of what I thought was interesting in the book, one of the challenges to increasing lifespans and longevity and health is diagnostics, and having the global population have access to something as basic, what we think is basic as an MRI, blood work, lab work. But right now it's still very expensive. Not everybody has it, certainly around the globe. And with wearables, which are here, there is you're nicely modeling your Apple Watch, your Cora ring, if I have that right.
Yeah, it's Oura Ring. Yeah.
Oura ring. I'm sorry, your Oura ring. And so they're here right now. So talk about that, because I find that part really intriguing. We have the wearables. How will it take the expense and the lack of access of diagnostics and bring it, to everybody?
Yeah, beautiful. Well, great question. And what I like about this question, there's so many things that we can do today. Okay, not in 5, 10, 15 years from now, but today. So think about the concept of Internet of Things. And this is where a lot of devices in our life are interconnected, right?
Sure.
I'm talking about the similar concept, but with our bodies. I call it Internet of Bodies. In few years from now, we all going to be full of sensors. If we are taking care of continuing the car metaphor, right? When you buy a car, it's just full of sensors. Yeah. Sensors are responsible for detecting signs of very early problems, so you can fix it cheaply. And this is what's going to happen with our body. And we tend to think about our wearables as kind of watch, like think about Apple Watch. I'm agnostic to any vendor, whether it's Google Fitbit or Garmin or Whoop from Amazon. So it's just notification from WhatsApp or messages, or just convenient way to do it like an interface with our smartphones. But this thing is becoming our personalized healthcare device. Well, this is what is happening today. So Apple Watch, let me just use this example. Can detect 5 different types of problems with your heart work. It can do electrocardiogram. It can measure the level of oxygen inside your blood. It actually has fall down detection. If you fall down on the street, and it will call ambulance for you automatically and let your relatives know. Apple Watch saved so many lives in the last few years in the world. And you know what? They will add a couple of more features: continuous glucose monitor in the next 2 years, and ability to measure your blood pressure. This is one of the main indicators of your risk related to your heart system. Remember, it's one of the 4 killer diseases. And that's it. And it's going to be 90 or 95% of the data that you need to have on a regular basis, almost on a permanent basis, about your health. So we're talking about completely different, data-driven, technology-based, very preventive, which means extremely efficient, very cheap, 10 to 20 to 50 times cheaper version of medicine. And this disruption will come from new players, not from big pharma or big food or insurance companies or hospitals reinventing themselves. It's going to be new players disrupting the thing. And just final example for our audience. If you can see me, I'm example of Internet of Body. I'm full of sensors. So it's from Amazon. It's Apple Watch. I'm using Oura Ring to measure my sleep. Right? I have continuous glucose monitor here. It lasts for 14 days. I have this Zio patch. It's an amazing device which measures the work of my heart for 7 days in a row. The only problem is I couldn't really, visit the swimming pool. That's like the only downside of having this device.
Okay.
And actually, I just bought this device, if you can see that, which measures your brain waves and efficiency of your brain work. I still haven't figured out how to use that, but so that's exciting. And well,
all right. So let me jump in.
But we can use it today.
So let me jump in. So, now you don't know me as other than the host of the Profit Express.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of conversation that, over a cup of coffee, we could sit and talk for hours. This is how fascinating this is to me. So you have the watch, you have the sensors, and I'm thinking all that is pretty amazing. And like you said, with the Apple Watch, how it even saves lives when you fall down and it calls an ambulance for you. Just basics like that. Now, I'm an old school kind of guy, Sergey. I'll fill you in on that, okay? Where I get lost, or I don't say lost, but where I kind of pump the brakes is when we have, what's the word I'm looking for? Like implantable sensors in the body.
Yeah.
That's where I kind of like, ooh, I don't know, has that gone too far? Because obviously you talk about it in the book, one of the most valuable resources very quickly will be global health data. And, are we opening up Pandora's box too much? What do you think about that?
Yeah. Okay. So two things. One, I just wanted to say that I'm on your side. And when we talk about long-term future, I'm equally concerned about the ethics of it. In fact, the final chapter of the book, called The Morality of Immortality, is about our ethical choices that we collectively need to make today to embrace the idea of life extension. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then the second part of my answer, and let me be a little bit provocative here. I do believe we already made this choice. So think about this device. My smartphone and your smartphone knows everything about you. Okay? Where you move, what is in your foreign media stream, all your contact details, all your intimate details, and it's so much data about you. So I'm afraid we already opened this Pandora box when we accepted the idea of smartphones and like, it's our own decision to carry all of these things with us. The balance between all the upside of using smartphones and the downside and risk that we carry in terms of the data privacy, we already made this choice. I've never seen a person in my life who decided, well, with one exception, I couldn't mention him today, who decided not to use a cell phone. So in the end of the day,
right.
Rather than just saying, well, let me come back to the old age when I don't need to use implantable sensors or smartphone. Well, let's just work collectively on the regulation, on the ethics side of it, right? And this is the motto from this is what I'm telling in the chapter dedicated to ethics. We have created technology to extend our life, but we haven't created life that we want to extend. That's the biggest problem. This is what I want to discuss, because 65 to 80% of people in US and UK say no even to idea of life extension. And there's so many inefficiencies in this world. There's so many moral dilemmas that we need to solve before we embrace the idea of using this technology. This gene editing, protecting our health data privacy and so many things.
It's interesting because you mentioned in the book that you know, given the option, the majority of people, roughly 60%, say they wouldn't want to live longer.
Yeah.
But I think it's the vision that we have of, you know, listen, hey, I'm 51, okay? So the vision you have of parents or maybe younger people with their grandparents, they're living longer currently, but a lot of them are not in great shape. They're being kept alive because of the advancements in technology medicine, as you know, but either they don't have great energy, you know, cognitively they're not fantastic, et cetera. So it's like, who wants to continue to live another 30 years in that state? That's not very appealing. But that's not where you're
I
going
agree
with
with
all
you.
this. Right.
Yeah, of course. We have very wrong model of aging in our mind, okay? So our mindset is wrong. Obviously, if you look at the state of aging today, I mean, you don't want to extend your life. Well, that's why the beauty of technologies and science that we're investing in is it works both on the quality of your life as well as on quantity of your life. And this is very important for me. None of us, including myself, wants more years if this is low quality years or unhealthy years. So that's why it's a historic opportunity for all of us to use technology to finally transform our lives. And well, the other wrong paradigm that we have is this whole example of centenarians, people who live to 100 years and above. Well, and why it's wrong, you know, almost all of them are genetically predisposed to live longer. The 3,000 genes in their DNA, which are responsible for aging, work in a very particular way for them to be able to live such a long life. Well, that's why the oldest living woman in the world, who died in the age of 122, she was smoking till the age of 117. And usually, like, a lot of skeptics, well, that's a reality. A lot of skeptics will tell you, like, you know what, my granddad, he died in the age of 100 and he was just drinking, smoking till the end of his life.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, they were really lucky in genetic lottery. And what we're trying to do is to eliminate this luck, to give equal opportunities to live healthy and happier and longer lives for everyone, just using the science and technology, which are currently in development phase.
And today's guest, we have Sergey Young. He is a venture capitalist, and he's the author, I should say, of the new book, the mind-blowing book, The Science and Technology of Growing Young. I try to not use the word mind-blowing too often. This book is mind-blowing. It's fascinating from the perspective of health, lifespan, longevity, the economic impact here in the United States, globally, of course. And to me, having Sergey on was just a very great opportunity to get all of us thinking about what's really possible. So, Sergey, you come to the table, you know, you have a scientific background as a chemical engineer, but really, you know, you're a venture capitalist now. You're the founder of the Longevity Vision Fund. Let me ask this question, and again, forgive me because I'm certainly not the scientist and I'm not the smartest person in this conversation today. The Human Genome Project, and correct me if my facts are wrong here. So it was completed, I think it was in 2003. It took about 15 years. It cost many billions of dollars.
Yeah.
But when
$3 billion. Yeah.
$3 billion. Okay. So when it was completed in 2003 or so, it really blew up genetic engineering. And now, so 18 years later in 2021, what is available for a fraction of the cost of genetic engineering is already here. So here's my question, Sergey. To think that genetic engineering could alter the DNA of an unborn child and allow it to be born without certain predisposed diseases, that's fascinating, right? That's one part of genetic engineering, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, now, see, here's the other part of the question. You know what happens with science. What is it that has you most concerned with genetic engineering, 20 or 30 years from now? Do we get to the point of, and I believe you spoke about it in the book, I'm paraphrasing, of engineering Olympic athletes, of engineering, billionaire minds, brilliant physicists, because somebody had that idea in history around World War II
Yeah,
in
remember that?
Germany, and it didn't end well. And granted, he was evil and a horrible person, but that's where the human thinks. Because you can think of the amazing side of being able to get rid of these horrible diseases, but then, once the cat is out of the bag, what do we do with that power? Playing God, not playing God.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So, well, an example I want to use is the nuclear power, right? The power of
Sure.
nuclear reaction.
Yeah.
So you can use it like any powerful technology or scientific discovery for good or for bad. So
Right.
you can create a nuclear bomb and threaten other nations, or you can just build a like electricity station and use this power for like peaceful and cheap way to produce energy. And the what I like about this analogy is that it shows you that we humans have a choice whether we're using powerful tools for good or for bad, and we've done it for like through centuries. So that's one. And then the other thing, it just shows you the level of magnitude of how powerful these gene editing tools are. Well, that's why call to action, in one of the call to actions in my book, one is actually take back responsibility and control over your health and the health of the planet. The other one, we need to start a conversation today about the ethics of using gene editing. And if we don't do that, some other countries will do it. I've been to China back in 2018 and in one of the conferences, and I've seen a guy doing a presentation saying they now start the project of genetically editing humans for populating Mars. So it's not like we can be cute here and just wait for like 20 years and to decide like, well, let's just reach the point when we can engineer humans and then we'll decide what to do. This is happening in the world today. And a lot of countries, including US, realize the fundamental nature of gene editing, which can bring good and very bad things to the world. So the time is today to start the ethical discussion, regulatory discussion, how we use that. So that's one. Well, my second, and obviously I'm always afraid of like widening inequality gap, because my mission is not to take care about rich guys by bringing like $1 million treatment to extend their life. My mission to help everyone by bringing really affordable and accessible version of healthcare to the world. So the only piece of like positive news that I can bring, so there were a number of examples where if technology is fundamental, useful, and super important for humanity, the cost of it will democratize itself very fast. So and you just mentioned this gene editing and in sequencing human genome piece. It costs us $3 billion here in US and 13 years. To complete this. Right now, just a few hours and $200. This is how powerful the impact of exponential increase of computing power and our resourcefulness can be.
So, and again, I'm throwing tough questions at you that no individual can answer. But you're right, we have to tackle it today before it gets out of control. Now, there's one individual story that I really liked in the book that I want to share, which to me, on the human side of things, just sheds light. The individual's name was Teresa McCowan, if I have that right, and she was suffering from, I believe it was stage 3 breast cancer. She was basically at the end of her life. And it was a doctor who kind of put her in touch with getting her DNA examined. What ended up happening? Can you give us that story?
Yeah, obviously, can I just use my own story, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I'm doing the most important day of your life is every year is the day of your annual screening, annual health screening, annual checkup.
Right.
This is like, because like cancer is not kiss of death anymore. And right now, if you get cancer at really early stage, your opportunity and your chances to recover grows from like 20 to 30% chances to 90 or even 100%. So I just had my genome sequence, and apparently I have very rare genetic mutation, which points out to the risk of particular cancer. And actually, my father had lung cancer as well. So I mean, it's a very powerful tool. So right now, I don't need to wait for like stage 4 when cancer will manifest itself. What I need to do is just like every 6 or even like 12 months to look at number of biomarkers and do medical interventions to check lung cancer risk. This is how easy it can be. This is where genetic sequencing and looking at our genome is really helpful. And I can tell you, like, if you look at research, our health is 30 to 40% is predetermined by our genetic composition. So if you are informed about your risk area, you can handle it really well, because the strategy for you to fight all of these killer diseases is just to do a diagnostic as early as possible. And human body is really complex, so at least you know your risk area and you can always focus on that.
So you have your own personal experience, and it was the same cancer, I guess the same gene that perhaps your dad possessed.
Yeah,
and you've been able to identify before cancer. Make sure I'm hearing you right, before any cancer has developed, thankfully.
Yeah, I know it's my risk area.
Okay.
So right now, like, every 6 months, I'm doing a number of diagnostics and interventions just to make sure a cancer will not develop itself, or if it will start manifesting, I can catch it really early with recovery rate 90 or even 100%. And this is cheaper to do, like to use preventive medicine. This is 10 to 20 times cheaper and more effective than responding to something in emergency mode. And this is an opportunity to sustain the quality of our life after this kind of treatments.
So, all right, one thing I want to go back to discuss, because technology is a huge part of this. Obviously, technology is driving a lot of this, and in particular, artificial intelligence. I thought, like, you talk about careers and how, even as we speak now, how with drones and self-driving cars, there are going to be certain professions in 5 years that could be in great jeopardy. Certainly in 10 years. We might not have truck drivers, perhaps. I don't know the exact timeline. But one thing that you mentioned I thought was very interesting in the medical field were radiologists, okay? And their levels of predicting certain diseases based on reading tests. And how certain radiologists were afraid, this AI is going to replace me. Talk a little bit about really how artificial intelligence with the doctor makes a great combination.
Yeah, well, it's a fascinating topic. And we humans, we're so binary. So we always think about world in kind of black and white terms. So it's either artificial intelligence will win over human intelligence, or it's either human being as a doctor, or it's going to be computer as a doctor. And we always try to fight. While I think the world is much more synergetic and complementary space. So think about these figures. Human radiologists working under time pressure. This is important to understand. And it's unfortunate, like 95% of the doctors working under time pressure have 38% chances to go through your scan and identify early stage of breast cancer. 38%. This is not a lot. Right, and remember about
less than half. Less than half of the time they get it right.
Less than half. Yeah. But then, if you empower the same radiologist with artificial intelligence, the detection rate is 99%. In fact, in the last 2 years, when I've done my annual health screening, my full body MRI was first pre-analyzed by artificial intelligence, and then I had a discussion with human radiologists. It was very powerful. And this is what will happen. We are always afraid of the new technology, but I've seen so many cases where technology actually expanded our opportunities. Like I know personally the head of extremely important and famous hospital chain here in US. And and they're very famous. Yeah, and they one of their specialization is heart surgeries.
Hmm.
So when one of the companies in the U.S. developed a robot to do heart surgeries, their doctors were so afraid of these robots. You know what happened? So they brought these robots to the clinics, and right now surgeon is not doing surgery on the heart. It just managed this through computer, right? Through
Right.
the keyboard and display as well. Um, they've been they've been able to decrease cost of this surgery at a very with a very significant decrease. And you know what? They have 3-4 times more patients going through this surgery these days than they had before bringing robots. They actually hired 50% more surgeons to run these operations now. So this is what is happening. We're always afraid of technology, but when technology comes, it's actually expand the opportunity for all of us rather than decrease the opportunity.
So now we've kind of gotten to the discussion of how the artificial intelligence and technology can make us more profitable, can allow us to do more, can increase efficiencies, as you just shared with the heart surgeons. So you're a venture capitalist. You have the Longevity Vision Fund. What are the specific? Again, I'm sure this names you can or cannot mention. That's fine. But what are the technologies that you are most excited with that have the most potential for investment in the near horizon?
Great. What I like about our investment that every time we invest in particular technology is it brings an improvement against current mode of treating or interventing with particular disease by 10 to 20, but not percent times. So a few examples, like there's a company called Freenome, and it used liquid biopsy to identify the risk of colon cancer. They still need to go to the market, so I don't know what's going to be the cost of this diagnostic tool, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be anywhere between $150 or $200. I don't know the figure, but so your next best alternative is to do colonoscopy, right?
Right.
It's invasive, unpleasant procedure. I was delaying mine for like 5 years. And here in US, it's anywhere between $800 and $2,000. Well, that's the improvement, like 5 to 10 times less that you can spend on it. You can do it more frequently, not to wait 5 years between this invasive procedure. When you're running the risk that cancer will develop itself to the stage 4, and you are, and with 70% probability you're gonna die. Well, that's just the beauty of that. Well, it's the other company called Eco Imaging, and they created the portable version of ultrasound diagnostic device. It's the size of the smartphone, and it costs somewhere around $2,000. Ultrasound device in the hospital next door costs you this hospital anywhere between $100,000 and $200,000. Well, it's just amazing improvement, at least 50 times against what we have today. Obviously, in the future, we'll need both devices. But if you are somewhere, or you in Africa, or US in unprivileged region, just using this smartphone size ultrasound device to scan you. Everything goes to cloud, pre-analyzed by artificial intelligence. Well, this is amazing. Or think about this organ regeneration company like Genesis, which use our lymph nodes to regrow liver. From one donor liver, they will be able to help 50 to 75 patients. So this is your opportunity to decrease liver transplantation cost by 50 to 75 times. Because right now, liver transplantation surgery in the US costs $600,000 to $800,000, and people wait months for your donor liver to arrive and be available to you. In fact, there are 117,000 people on a waiting list for donor organs here in the US. People die every day because they couldn't really survive for that long on the waiting list.
It's funny when I started out the show and I introed you and I share your mission of creating healthier longevity for 1 billion people. A lot of people may hear that and say, okay, great, he's passionate, but it's, he must be half crazy. But just in hearing my conversation with you today and reading through the book, which again, it's The Science and Technology of Growing Young. Sergey Young is the guest today. As you're describing the scenario, Sergey, of the near horizon, creating and achieving your mission of accessible, affordable care to that billion does not seem so crazy after all. It really doesn't.
Oh yeah, yeah. It all feels impossible until it possible one day. Well, that's the words of my very good friend Peter Diamandis, who together with Ray Kurzweil wrote the foreword for this
Yeah,
book.
yeah. So I could just when you wake up in the morning. I mean, your brain just must be spinning constantly with everything that's going on, the people that you're talking to, the possibilities, the
Yeah,
companies that you're investing in. I mean, so let me do this. So we talked a lot about the near horizon, okay?
yeah.
We got a little bit of time left. Scare us a little bit. Be a little provocative. What's the far horizon like? Paint a little picture of that.
Okay, so four things that are important to understand about how our life will look like in 25 to 50 years from now.
Okay.
And again, as we discuss morality over mortality, bear in mind that both you and I are skeptical, are scared about this whole thing. And the time to define the ethical boundaries and regulatory boundaries for this is today. And not by Sergey Young, but by all of us, okay, and our government and regulators. So how the future will look like? So, well, while near horizon will give us an opportunity to live to 120 or 150 years, if we want to live longer than that, and who knows, Mother Nature in the form of evolution can push it to this limit, then we would need to combine man and machine, okay? Well, redefining human beings, integrating with technology is like the only way for us to live significantly longer beyond 150 years. So we're going to redefine humans in the next 25 to 50 years. So how are we going to redefine that? So we're just overestimating our importance for evolution. That's it. Nevertheless, so how are we going to redefine it? One, our brain going to be integrated with computer, with artificial intelligence. And if you're scared by that, think about people who are suffering from neurodegenerative diseases today. Watch the movie called The Father with Anthony Hopkins, which is done through the eyes of the person, of the old man who's suffering from dementia, I think. And this is just really dramatic, emotional movie. And you're going to be really up for in supporting Elon Musk in developing his Neuralink and integrating human brain with computer power. So that's one thing. Second thing, as we discussed, we're all going to be interconnected. Similar to Internet of Things, we're going to have Internet of Bodies. And while I have this, all these sensors today, they're going to be embedded. They're going to be connected to decentralized AI-based system, which is going to run this whole algorithm of managing even the smallest risks of developing deadly diseases in our body. And so that's going to happen, similar to what we have today with cellular networks, with the way we manage the health of our cars. Our body and mind, they are much more important than cars that we drive. So this is what's going to happen. What else? Human avatars. We will have the opportunity to develop like a second persona or continue living and in the form of avatar. And it can be either robotic ones. And I met, like, for the book, I interviewed a lot of guys on avatar. So I spoke to like Professor Sasumi Tachi from Tokyo. He's the man who developed the human avatar and prototype first on Earth back in 1980. Or I had a discussion with Peter Jackson, the talented man behind Lord of the Rings, the Avatar movie, Hobbits movie as well, about the future with avatars. So it can be either robotic or virtual one. And then we're going to be doing backups of our brain every month, similar to what we do with our computer, not to lose all the information there. And then, it's up to you really, to continue living in material world or in robotic form or on biological form or in the virtual form. Okay.
So we'll be we'll be backing up or downloading our consciousness to the cloud.
Yeah, I mean, like with the current development of artificial intelligence, it's going to be much faster than that, because we do think that our brain is complex, but like for artificial intelligence, it's not really complex, yeah, at all. So this is what's going to happen. And what else? We're going to have nanobots inside our blood and inside our body who will just flow within the our bloodstream, and will attack cancer cells or any other dangerous cells in our bodies. And if you think it's sci-fi, I've seen a number of capsules, like prototypes of nanobots who are that size,
Right.
very small, yeah. And I even seen a version of that which actually have 4 engines there, like a small spaceship. They managed to put 4 engines there, so it's actually like it actually goes through your gut system,
Right.
okay, and you know where it ends in
Sure.
few hours after you kind of swallow that. But like this is a prototype of nanobots which going to be just going through our body and taking care of different health risks which are developing itself in a way. So this is the vision of the future. And again, my idea, is not to predict how the future will look like. My idea is that we all need to shape this future. We need to draw the boundaries or to be excited about opportunities where our collective focus should be to create this future. And again, as I said, I don't want to work only on technologies to extend our life. I want to create life that we all want to extend.
Yeah, life worth extending, exactly.
Yeah.
So, wow, I mean, reimagining the human being, that's a hard one to wrap your head around. Like you're saying, the avatar, part human, part robot. Man, I don't know if I'm there yet, Sergey. I'm sorry. That's a tough one. But listen, like you said, once we accept, and I love the analogy because I think it puts it really into everybody's ability to comprehend what's going on. Once we accepted the smartphone, the floodgates are really kind of opened, as far as wearables, as far as actually, injectables, as you just mentioned as well. It's really terrific. So let me ask this then. For people who are hearing about you and your book for the first time, and again, the book, The Science and Technology of Growing Young, Sergey Young, the author and guest today. Fascinating conversation, by the way. Thank you for your time. So somebody's listening and they're thinking, wow, this is fantastic. They might not be on board for 200 in avatars, but they're thinking, hey, can I be healthier? Can I live healthier to 100, maybe 120? Okay. What are some of the first things that you might suggest, beyond reading the book, of course, that people can introduce themselves to?
Perfect. So I call it 10 longevity choices, and it's obviously in a bonus, like the largest chapter of the book. This is what you can do today. If you don't want to buy the book, you can go to sergeyyoung.com. There's a free infographic there. It's the same 10 longevity choices. But when you ask me, like, Sergey, how do I stay on longevity bridge? How I stay healthy and happy for the next 5, 10, 15 years?
Yes.
So I can then enjoy or have an option to use all these beautiful technologies that you presenting us today. My answer, it's always complexity of the things. So human biology will not have one silver bullet to solve aging problem or diseases.
Correct.
So 5 things. 1, annual screening. We discussed that. This is the most important day of your life every year. My wife disagree with me, but like, I'm still believing that. Second thing, don't die stupid. Don't do risky choices. Don't drive motorcycle, because this is 17 times more dangerous in terms of mortality than driving the car. Don't do tobacco smoking. It's minus 10 years from your life. All of this kind of responsible behavior and not taking unnecessary risks. This is why men live 3, 5, 7 years less than women, because we are this kind of risky and sometimes irresponsible kind of species, half of humanity. The third thing is a diet. You need to decrease the number of calories that you take every day by 15 to 25%. There's a lot of disagreement what extends our life, but there's one disagreement in academic circle: caloric restriction, decreasing volume of the food, and the calories that you take in from food every day extends your lifespan by 3, 5, 7 years. So that's very important. Go really heavy on vegetables, take out the sugar and sugar drinks from your diet, do a little bit of fasting. We don't have time to discuss that. You can discover this online. There's a lot of materials on fasting. Fourth is your physical activity, and like 2/3 of your physical activity agenda is like 10,000 steps a day measured by your favorite wearable. Okay. Feedback loop is very important, and that's it. You can integrate walking to any part of your life. In 17 minutes from now, I have a very good old friend of mine who's living here in New York, and we're going to Central Park for 1 hour walk. Well, this is walk-in meeting. You can do that as well.
Sure.
So, and number 5 is peace of mind. It's like, I don't want a quantity of life if I don't have quality of life. Mental health is equally important to our physical health. So for me, it's sleep. Sleep is extremely important. For me, it's mindfulness and meditation, because we all have this old stress hormone called cortisol, extremely high level of that. This is dangerous for our health. We need to calm our body and mind down with either walking in the park or doing meditation. You don't need to be religious or spiritual about this whole thing. And finally, and this is part of this, what I call peace of mind, bucket number 5, is having sense of purpose. Be a good person, be grateful, share the best of you with the world, give more than you take, and help others, and you're going to be fine. You're going to be living at least 3, 5, 7 years longer if you have sense of purpose. Think about religious or spiritual people that you've seen. They all shine, they all radiate, they all young, right? Like Sergey Young. And having sense of purpose, big mission usually helps. And like, if you give everything to others, universe and society and people will always pay you back.
Beautifully said, Sergey. Beautifully said. Now, I've had the show The Profit Express for 11 years now, and I've had the great fortune of interviewing some phenomenal people. I really have a strong feeling that I will be looking back on this interview for many, many years to come. And I have a strange feeling that you're going to be one of the real pioneers in this longevity quest on your way to helping 1 billion people. I want to wish you much success on that journey, Sergey.
Thank you, team. Thanks, everyone. And please stay healthy and happy.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being on board the Profit Express, Sergey. And again, today's guest, Sergey Young, the author, the venture capitalist, the new book, the amazing book, The Science and Technology of Growing Young. Remember to listen and download to The Profit Express each and every Wednesday as new and exciting episodes drop, just like my interview with Sergey today. You can follow us at The Profit Express on Instagram, at Profit_Express on Twitter. And always special thanks to our supporters, Corporate Public Relations, promoting and protecting businesses and brands for over 30 years. And always remember to check out my good friends at CorbettPR.com. That's CORBETT PR.com. Until next time.